Hey there guys, I figured I would make a new video covering over a few things about the PTS, at least what they're going to try to have us, I don't know, check out. One thing I would recommend, even if you're not going to check the PTS, at least try to give feedback. If anything, hopefully listen to some of it. I've given a lot of feedback, I'll go over it in this video. However, I want to go over the things that they list first. So the first thing that we're seeing right now is Agent and Smuggler class changes in 6.11. It was going to be a 6.12, but they merged it. So for Operative and Scoundrel, kind of ignore Scoundrel, the aggressive medication set bonus is slightly redesigned. 4-piece now removes the energy cost of Toxic Haze, and appropriately works on the healer's range version of the ability as well. So I assume this is the Toxic Haze heal set, which is, you know, a nice quality of life change. It's probably something that should have been released like this rather than, you know, getting later down the road fixed, but nonetheless, it's always nice to see things actually working. Then Medicine and Sawbones, I assume they mean Medicine and not Accomplished Doctor, but whatever. Now allows the initial heal from Culto Infusion to refresh the duration of a 2-stack Culto probe, in addition to its other effects. So basically what that means is that anytime that you use Culto Infusion, you'll be able to refresh your probes. Well, to some that may not seem like much, but as a medicine slash, you know, Sawbones healer, you are managing your probes, and part of keeping your highest HPS up is keeping your probes up and not letting them fall. Usually you'll have probes on 2 people, sometimes 3 to 4. But usually if it's only like 2 people that's taking damage, let's say you're in a 4v4 and you're playing group ranked or something, you usually have probes on 2 different people, so it's going to free up another GCD rather than having to probe, because you're probably going to be using Infusion anyway, which is definitely pretty nice. I think that'll help quite a bit, but it won't be like anything groundbreaking. They'll probably just make it a little bit easier to manage. Then going into Sniper, Virulence, the periodic damage effect by lethal shot with exploded weakness tactical has been reduced by 30%. Honestly, I haven't really tried this, and I don't know, like this, I assume this is just like a PvE nerf. I don't really know anything about this, unfortunately. Okay, I just double checked. That is the tactical that makes your dots explode and then makes your Toxic Blast go on an 18-second cooldown. If that actually needed nerf, then I guess that's good, but I don't feel like that's a practical, you know, thing to take for PvP, so we'll move on. What is this? New Sorcerer and Sage set bonus in 6.11. Which is this one? Activating Force Barrier heals all allies around you. I did get on the PTS. I didn't really see the heal or what it does. I assume it requires a group, but I'm not sure. That heal could be lackluster. I did see the activating Force Barrier put some minor barrier around allies. This doesn't make them immune or anything. Just absorbs like 40k damage. Don't know what it scales off, either mastery power or something like that. And it could be buffed before it hits live. This set bonus could be really good, if only it did something else on top of it. Like, I feel like the 4-set bonus should also do something extra, not just this. And then the 6-set being this 6-set bonus should do maybe 1 or 2 extra things, like minor things, but they should just be extra things. Alright, sorry about that. Then also, you know, besides just that, the other sets that we have, they're not amazing, right? What they could do is maybe mix the sets together, or just try to listen to the community about feedback, like, hey, maybe we should add this to that, make it really good. Like, this set could be good. Okay, I feel like obviously in Rex it'd probably be a lot of fun to use, because then, you know, if there's like a huge opener on the enemy team, you can use this and save a crap ton of health for your allies. Or you're playing like group ranked, for example, and there's about to be a double carb. What you could do is wait for the first carb, take a little damage, and then, you know, use it on the second carb, because then you'll heal them a little bit, and then you'll give them a shield, so they won't be able to get much out of their double carb. Granted, that's like a 2-minute, 30-second, or 3-minute cooldown because of Force Barrier, but it still could be very helpful, especially with like things like Meteor Brawler. Meteor Brawler really makes some pretty scary openers. And then moving on to the next one, changes the sorcerer, decrease the initial portion of the resurgence, healing roughly by 37%, increase the overtime portion by 67%. So I assume this is just like the initial hit, so it's not doing like 7 to 8 to 12k, whatever it's hitting now. It's been a little bit, and they increase the dot heal over time, which I feel like it probably doesn't change much for it at all. It's already a low cooldown, but it could be good. I don't really think it's going to make any difference. The empowered restore set bonus has been redesigned. Static barrier leaves a heal over time on the target for 12 seconds after being applied. Like, this could be good depending on how much is actually healing. I don't know. Static barrier immediately heals the target when applied. This set just enforces the impact of your static barrier, which it's already really good because it has a heal when it breaks currently. This just makes it even better. So definitely prioritizing your static barriers. With that set, the Revitalized Mystic set bonus has been rebalanced, refreshing resurgence. On a target refunds 5 force. That could be cool, but I don't think it's all that impactful, because I'm pretty sure you still have to use 1 GCD to refresh it, regardless. Healing a target with another ability while Resurgence is active on them has a 15% chance to cause your Resurgence to provide an additional unscheduled tick of healing. Well, I'm glad that it's any kind of healing. It's not, I guess it has to be a healing ability. If this worked off of any healing dots, I feel like this could be really good. So like having Revivification and they're just sitting there and getting passive heals off of that, I feel like that would make this pretty good. But if it requires to actually be ability, this is probably lackluster, if anything. Now to get into Gathering Storm, this is probably the biggest change of them all. Using Force Speed now reduces active cooldown Polarity Shift by 5 seconds instead of 10. And the duration of Polarity Shift is now increased by 5 seconds instead of 10. And it also requires Polarity Shift to be used while Force Speed is active previously. Sometimes you could get the extra 10 seconds even if you weren't Force Speeding, which was really weird. I don't know what's up with that, but assume maybe they fixed that now. If they fix that, then that's great. But lowering the uptime of Polarity Shift was definitely needed, especially since they get a crap ton of movement speed during it. Now this Storm Successor, or whatever it's called, now it's called Metaphysical Mender, has been redesigned. Now each charge of energy, or not energy, energized / empowered. Formerly energized. What do you mean Okay, some of this, I'm gonna just not try to correct this. Anyways, reduces the Force Volt Rush. Wait, what? God, this is really hard to follow. Sorry. Consumes by 30%. So, what? Now each charge reduces the Force Volt Rush. Consumes by that. I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense to me. Right? I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just too early for me. And the healing component. So. A smart, what is a smart heal? I assume it prioritizes whoever's lowest health. So I guess this makes the Volt Rush tactical that would heal allies within, in front of you. That was an AoE heal. Maybe it's a single target heal now, and it prioritizes whoever's lowest and does more healing. That's all I can assume. Like, this is pretty worded badly, or I'm just stupid, one or the other. Alright, now to get into a little bit more important things. Dark Confusion healing has been increased by roughly 7%, which that's your big heal. That's nice to see that getting a buff, I guess. Enervate It's been increased by 6%. That could be good. Reduced the base force cost of Revivification by 15, so now it's 60 force requirement. And the healing it does by 11%, so that's nice. Actually, hold on, wait, what? So reduce the base cost. So I want to assume that also means that they're reducing the healing by 11%. I really wish that they would award this stuff better. It's kind of bad. So that'd be nerfing Revivification, but lowering the force cost. I don't think that's worth it. They're already lacking in healing, and if they increase the force management, that's nice, but lowering their healing is not helping. Reduce the base force cost of roaming mend, so that's 50 now. And the healing it does by roughly 19%. Like, that's another nerf there. So that's nerfing roaming mend, which doesn't make any sense if you ask me, like at all. Sorcerer is really needing more AoE healing, and nerfing this doesn't make much sense. Lowering the force cost though is nice, for sure. And then force bending now reduces the activation time of Dark Infusion by 0.5 seconds. Instead of 2.5 seconds, which I guess is nice. Force bending now makes Revivification activate instantly, but it no longer reduces its force cost. That's unfortunate, but at least it's still instant with your stacks. Penetrating Darkness now increases the critical chance of Dark Heal by 10% instead of increasing its bonus healing by 3%. I assume this is the auto cast after Dark Infusion, which is also pretty nice. I don't know how critical chance would. I mean, I guess it would have more chances of critting, so the bonus healing doesn't matter much. Force Surge no longer affects Revivification. Okay. Dark Concentration now increases the healing dealt by Dark Heal by 50% in addition to its other effect. I don't exactly know what that one is. Renewal healing is increased roughly by 65 or 67%. My bad. Secrets of the Dark Side has been redesigned and now increases all. Alright, increases the healing done by all. Or by Resurgence. I don't know why I keep saying all. And renewal by 10% instead of reducing the force cost of roaming mend, wandering mend. Okay, so they would work to passive there. Okay, that makes more sense. So increase the healing done by Resurgence by 10%. So maybe that will negate the initial nerf to like the initial hit because they buffed it here. So we don't have the. Alright, I guess that makes more sense then. Tactical One for All has been resigned. Now gives redesigned, not resigned. God. Now gives roaming mend and wandering mend 1 extra healing charge. Assume that doesn't actually sound like what it's supposed to be. Like, even if it was like give us like 2 charges or 2 stacks or whatever, it's still gonna be like 1. You would only have 2 charges at like the beginning. But I assume this is just giving us an extra person to hit with wandering mend or roaming mend. And then tactical One for All. Well, not One for All, but All for One, backwards. Now Revivification concludes with a burst of healing, filling up to 8 allies within it. So that's cool. So I guess it's just going to turn it to like a burst bubble of AoE healing, which could be good, I guess. Though if it's still causing, or not causing, but costing the same amount of force, it could be better to just take the Vault Rush one, if that was even viable. I don't know. It'd be actually kind of funny to see that healer is actually doing damage to heal. So reverberating force, critical chance has been increased from 5% to 15%. This is something to do with chain lightning, I'm pretty sure. Could be wrong. Increase the damage of another passive. I don't remember what this one is, but increases Crushing Darkness while Polarity Shift is active. So most of the time, I'm not using Crushing Darkness unless I'm like just full on single targeting and using Force Storm. But if I'm ever using Elemental Convection, I'll completely forego using Crushing Darkness, especially when I have Polarity Shift up. So It's always nice to see that there's a buff for that. Madness and Balance, Disintegration, critical chance bonus has been increased from 5% to 15%. And then the other one is critical chance has been increased per stack from 2 to 3%. I don't really feel like Madness is falling behind in damage. If anything, I wish they would add some sort of DR or something to allow Madness not to get completely destroyed by every class in the game. It is arguably the most squishy class in the game. The only thing that you could say that's like, hey, this one's a lot more squishy is like Hatred Sen not using their defensives or Sniper not using their defensives. Because even if you are a Madness Strike and you're using your defensives, you're still squishier than the other two, which sucks. I mean, I guess during Force Barrier, obviously not squishy, and the same thing with Suppression, but Suppression only lasts for, 6 seconds, and that's pretty much nothing. While Shroud can mitigate pretty much everything while they can still do things, and they still have double cloak out, they have force speed absorb, Saber's just got so much stuff. So this definitely takes the cake for the squishiest right now. And then probably the change that everybody's upset about. But honestly, I think it's for the better, but I do think they need to rework it. So basically this only gives you 1 critical maul, right? But you still get the 30% damage boost, but you're still locked into taking that utility to get an extra recklessness stack. I don't agree with that. I really think they should do away with that. Either don't give it 30% damage boost or don't make us take that utility. Like, I feel so trapped and choosing utilities because I have to take that one, and it's such a useless utility. Like, outside of the extra auto, not extra auto, but basically the extra critical, it's like a really trashy utility. I wish it did something else besides just lower the cooldown of Overload, because just taking it for the 1 stack of Recklessness just feels wrong. I feel like they should change that back to the set bonus. Then we could have a different utility without having to take that one. It would free up a lot of options. English. Then they also changed to the fact that Assassinate no longer gets an auto crit. I don't agree with this. They didn't move it to Legion Strike. I think that's a terrible idea. I think they should definitely change it back to Assassinate. Legion Strike kind of sucks, and if it was made AoE, if there was a way to make Legion Strike an AoE, I feel like it would be good. But there's no way to actually do that, so I think Assassinate would be a lot better. Hatred and Serenity. So basically this is just like a minor... Oh no, this isn't minor. This is increases the damage of Legion Strike by 20% against enemies of less than 30% health. So this is basically like an extra execute. So between Assassinate and Legion Strike, you can do increased damage if somebody's under 30%. Severing Slash now spreads your periodic effects. This is probably like the biggest quality of life change for Hatred Assassin right now. I wish they would give some DR to this spec because it's so squishy. And then the I don't exactly remember what this passive is right here, but having it actually work with this tactical is great because that's basically your double tick for Creeping Terror, which can increase your damage by a ton. Then for the last bits, increases the critical damage bonus from 5% to 20%. I assume this is all just because, how to put it, Deception basically got nerfed losing the triple auto crit. So I assume they're trying to increase the sustained damage here. So that does, Surging Charge is 30% more damage, which is nice. That's like the extra yellow damage that procs when you're using like slash and low slash and stuff like that. Increasing the damage of Reaping Strike. I feel like this could be really good. The only problem is that Reaping Strike, and with the Reaping Strike tactical, which will give you an auto crit for Reaping Strike, which is really interesting. I feel like this could hit really well. The only problem with that is that it's white damage. In PvP, it's going to probably be a little bit harder to implement, but it would definitely be pretty good. Maybe make that extra accuracy really worth it. That's definitely something I want to try in the future. But giving up double cloak is it's a pain. And going to the next one, Juggernaut and Guardian. This kind of upsets me. And there's not really any changes here. They increase the Destroyer's Bleeding. So this is basically increases all the burning effects slash dot effects from 10% to 15%. So this is just bonus damage. And then Gushing Vein is just the critical chance of your bleeds. And I think that also includes Vengeful Slam for some reason. I don't know why. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I would have loved to seen like something different to help Juggernaut survive, because that's currently the issue. They do a ton of damage and they just don't survive. Brutality now increases critical chance of Furious Strike and Concentrated Slice. And Vicious Throw slash Dispatch from 10% to 15%. So I guess that's nice. It's very minor though. The Perseverance Tactical has now been redesigned using Obliterate slash Zealous Leap with Furious Power. Will cause it to critically hit, so that's what it used to do. But now it's also going to increase your critical strike chance by 20% for 2 seconds, so that's only going to work for one GCD. So, I don't know how to put that. So basically, that's going to potentially either increase your strike damage, or it's going to increase your Raging Burst damage, because those are the only things that's going to be worth using after that. And considering Obliterate and Raging Burst get the most CDR for using your fillers, you're probably going to use it with Raging Burst. And this is already a favorite tactical for me for Concentration and Fury, just because I don't really like the dot on the Fury Strike. I feel like it's kind of crap. So having this getting buffed would be great, and plus also means it'll be better for Rage too. Definitely be exciting to try. There's still like Ghost GCD problems with Fury, Concentration, Rage, and Focus. I don't know what the issue is there. I'm gonna assume like for Fury and Concentration, for example, it's going to be the fact that we have charges, and we use the most charges in the game compared to every other class. And then on top of that, we also have CDR for Obliterate and Raging Burst. Each time you use a filler, you get 1 second off of it. I feel like that the GCD system is unable to accurately keep up with it. I don't know what exactly the cause is. I don't think they know either, but if they knew, I am more than sure that they'll fix it. I really hope that it gets fixed soon, because it's the first time, as far as I know, Star Wars has actually had a GCD issue. You really won't notice it unless there's a lot going on, and you're really paying attention to GCDs, and you're always making use of every action per minute that you have. If you're not actually taking full advantage of that, you're a clicker, you're a little bit slow, you won't ever notice it. Now getting into Juggernaut, sub bonuses, right? So Threatening Scream getting 2 charges is really good. I feel like that would be obviously better for a DPS, so getting the 4-step bonus piece as a DPS, that could be really helpful, because you get 60% AoE DR 15 seconds, so you could make that. Is it 30 seconds of 60% AoE DR? That would be absurd. But basically, Endure Pain increases elemental and internal damage reduction by 75% for 3 seconds. I feel like this is not good enough, like for the set to be worthwhile. I would say if anything, changes like 40% or 50% for 8 seconds, because Endure Pain is, already a decent defensive. The only problem is that it's the last like double-edged sword kind of DCD in the game. If they change the way Endure Pain works, then I think this would make a lot more sense right here, and just leave it as is. But if they don't change Endure Pain at all, some of the specs have like DR for Endure Pain and stuff like that, which is nice, but at the same time, you're still potentially going down after it. I would say maybe the best thing to do here is just lower the yellow DR and increase the duration, because baseline as DPS, that's 10 seconds as tank, which is the purpose of the set bonus. It lasts for 20 seconds. So only getting 3 seconds of the 20 seconds, that means 17-second downtime. I don't feel like that would be worth. It would definitely be nice to see more things get added onto this. Like some of these set bonuses have like a whole page full of things that they do, like Meteor Brawler, for example. Meanwhile, we get like these things that barely do anything, and it's like, here, this is a 6-set bonus piece, and I'm like, this should be a 2-set bonus piece. What are you talking about? I don't want this. But moving on, there's really not much to say about that. Most of these sets, I assume, are going to be coming from how to put it, like a master mode raid. So chances are the majority of the players aren't even going to get it. So this, what set is actually this? I don't see it. This is a new set, I assume. But it doesn't tell us. Okay, so 2% mastery, infiltrate maxes out your tactical advantages when activated. Tactical spirit now consumes all tactical advantages skills. Also the crit chance buff when with amount consumed up to 20. This could be really good. The only problem is just that the uptime is terrible. So you're gonna get this once every 5 minutes. Once every 5 minutes, yeah. Let that sink in. A whole set bonus for once every 5 minutes. I don't know what they were thinking. It's another one of those moments where they don't really understand the class, I guess. Or they just want to put out filler sets, which is reasonable. Definitely would help for like a burn phase or just squeezing a burn phase if you're able to actually swap your sets like that, but you can. Now, last one. New Marauder set, 2% mastery. Not very helpful because, you know, it's only 2% of what you already have, so take whatever you have right now and then put that on. Or not put that on, but take 2% of whatever you have now, and that's how much you'll gain putting on this 2%. Killing an enemy generates 2 rage, completely unnecessary. We have no rage problems, and the movement speed for 1 second doesn't help very much, and it can stack up to 5 times, which is kind of redundant. Yeah, this is more than just redundant. Like, you would have to get like 5 kills all at once, and maybe you'll get like 10 rage in 5 seconds, maybe a speed boost. That's not worth it. Not even the slightest. Anything would be better than this. They actually want this set to be competitive. They should make Force Sleep give a 15-second 10% damage boost to make it competitive with Descent of the Fearless. Otherwise, there's no reason to take off Descent of the Fearless because it's the best in slot, and there's no reason to ever change because it's just too good. And then activating Berserk does damage to all targets around you, dealing I think it was like 8 to 9k to 8 people around you, 5 meter range. I feel like if they increased it to 8 meter range, left the damage alone, and changed the 4 piece to, you know, a damage boost, a flat damage boost to make it competitive with Descent of the Fearless. This could be actually a pretty good set for PvP. Be a lot of fun. It'd give you a chance to get a little extra cleave, which Annihilation, in my opinion, definitely needs. Alright, no, I lied. I actually forgot about this one. The Mercenary Changes, so I guess they get a new set. Activating healing ability has 15% chance to cause your next rapid scan to be critical. Healing an ally with rapid scan applies a buff to them for 10 seconds. Each enemy defeated by this ally increases your healing by 2%. Stacking up to 5 times. This could be really good because this is a, what do you call it? A healing increase percentage overall. So like when you have burst heals, your burst heals are going to hit even harder. And in regs, this would probably be really easy to proc and then use. However, I don't think it's that great. Like the supercharged gas one is going to be really strong, but this is not a bad set, and could have potential. How much potential? I don't know. All right, and lastly to cover, I did write a rather lengthy, what do you call it, feedback thread. I'll post this in the description or in the comments. But basically, I'm not going to go over everything here, but I tried to list pretty much everything that's problematic in the game that we have issues with. Whether you think some of these are not as impactful or very annoying or stuff like that, I really spent a lot of time thinking about this. If they were only to take like one thing away from it, I would love that they take the Dashing Blade Master rework that I proposed. I feel like that would help Marauders so much. Or I don't know, some of the utility overhauls, because most of them don't make sense, or the Warzone changes. Like there's a lot of stuff that I put in here. It would probably take even longer for me to go over all of it, but if you guys are interested in like my thoughts, or you want to just check it out and then see like if you can come up with a better ideal. There's definitely better ideals than mine. Anything to give them more feedback, like overall, I think will help. Because surely, how to put it? Like one person can give all they can to give feedback, but when a lot of people give a lot of the same feedback, there's more likely a chance that they'll actually listen to it. So at pretty much any point, they take any of this into account and actually change something. I definitely feel like it would be for the better. Number one thing I would say out of everything, at least for regular war zones, is to change the way matchmaking works. As I mentioned here, healers and tanks leaving regular war zones face little to no punishment and hinder the entire team for leaving. Their impact is far greater than a DPS, and often a DPS will backfill in their place instead of another of the same role. So healer leaves, DPS comes, tank leave, DPS comes. It's not like they're getting replaced with another healer or replaced with another tank. This leaves a lot of games unbalanced and worse off than having no matchmaking. It's also very easily abused as a tank and healer to queue and leave multiple games all night, ruining many players' experience. So I've run into the wonderful thing of what I just said. There was one Friday that multiple different pre-mades. It's not really. I can't really say pre-mades. They were like a DPS or a tank and tank and heal. So basically, it was DPS, heal, tank, heal. They were like completely dodging any fight, or not any fight, but basically any warzone they didn't want to play, or anybody they didn't want to play against, which really left a lot of teams handicapped. So most of the games just ended up being completely steamrolled because the other team just wasn't, evenly balanced, and there was no way that they could stand a chance without a healer. And what I mean by, what was the other line that I said? This leaves a lot of games unbalanced, worse off than having no matchmaking. What I mean by having no matchmaking is that you can have more than one healer in a group. While I think this was abusive, I still think that they should put a hinder like, hey, this match can't happen if you have more than 3 healers on your team. So that one guy that's queuing with 3 healers is probably gonna need a warning, like, hey, you got too many healers in your group, what the hell? Don't queue. Or limit to like 1 tank per team, because then 1 tank is, actually dedicated to going mid, protecting people, and doing his role as a tank, taunting and guarding people, rather than just sitting AFK on a node, leaving a guard on a healer while the other tank is mid, and trying to guard that said healer that is dying because the other guy is out of range of the guard, and he's not getting the benefit of guard, and that healer has to click that guard off or die and come back, and that's a terrible thing to have happen. I don't feel like tanks shouldn't have to fight over putting guard on someone, so if anything, just limit it to 1 tank. 1 tank's impact in a red war zone is really huge. And even then, like, even if they're not playing it right, their impact is still pretty big. It's better than no tank, I'll tell you that. I really miss the days of just having, 1 to 3 healers on each team. There being almost no tanks. Now, if you ever see a healer, there's usually a tank, and sometimes you only see tanks, and there's like very few DPS. I don't know what's up with that. It's like, apparently you can have up to 3 tanks in 1 war zone. I don't like that. That really should not be a thing. If anything, you should be allowed to have up to 3 healers in a war zone rather than 3 tanks. Like 1 to 2 tanks at the very maximum, preferably 1, would be a lot better for everybody. But pretty much to sum it all up, this is pretty much everything that I've thought of since 6.0 dropped, and it does include some older problems, but regardless, I appreciate you guys for watching, listening. Pretty much did all of this in 1 take, so excuse me for all the mistakes. This is the new microphone that I have, so hopefully I sound a lot better. You can hear me a lot clearer. I figured I would make a video like this to just go over this and share my thoughts and, put feedback out there for them to actually maybe listen to. Maybe we get some better changes. Pretty much the basis is just like, hey, test out the PTS if you want. Definitely leave feedback if you can. The more feedback, the better. And other than that, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.